PCM's Webinar Friday. We are thrilled to have you with us today for our webinar, Workforce Transformation with Dell. Joining us today is Cami, Joseph, and Randy. We're going to get right into our presentation in just a few, but first some housekeeping items. If you have any questions, please enter them in the question box on the right, and I'll relay those to our presenters at the end of their presentation. Please fill out our survey and let us know how we did, as well as topics you'd like to see covered on future webinars. You should see that survey in your inbox later today. For all things webinars, please be sure to check out www.pcm.com/webinars/archive for our weekly webinar schedule and previously recorded webinars for on-demand viewing. Including webinars, PCM also offers comprehensive expertise and proven experience in emerging, advanced, and legacy technologies. We leverage certified personnel, valuable partnerships, mature processes, and scale to achieve our clients' IT objectives and position them for future success. Contact us via our website at pcm.com or by calling 1-800-700-1000. Also, please stick around for a chance to win a Dell Premier wireless keyboard and mouse set. And with that, we're going to get started with our presentation today, and I'm happy to hand it off to Cami.
Thank you, George.
You're welcome.
Hello, everyone. Are you still seeing my screen, George?
You should get the pop-up now, and there it is.
Perfect. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. I am going to cover workforce transformation as we see it at Dell and how we go to market around workforce transformation and how it's really driving digital transformation, what that means, and some of the trends that we're seeing in the market and how it's shaping our client portfolio. And then with that, we're going to also touch a little bit about Windows 10, as well as some of our services offering and our warranty offerings. And then we're going to end the call with cover our client peripheral portfolio, including monitor and docks. So without further ado, I am going to get us started. So workforce transformation is probably something you guys have heard thrown around probably all the time, right? And everyone has a very different way of defining what that means, right? But for us at Dell, it really just comes down to the way we work, right? And how that is changing, because our world and our work are becoming way more immersive, more collaborative, and more mobile, which means also more competitive, right? And it's really changing at a dramatic pace. I think we're looking at what we say is improving 10 times every 5 years, right? So that means 10 times faster, 10 times smaller every 5 years. A lot of this is driven by like some of the processors we're seeing from Intel. The capability and technologies that we're coming out with are just faster than we've ever seen it before, right? And so with that, we've seen a rise of new technologies like artificial reality, virtual reality, IoT, and the likes. And so the technology advancement in capability and bandwidth and mobility have really changed how we work, which has led to workforce transformation. So, but the one thing that has kind of remained the same for us as Dell, right, and how we go to market is we will always need computing at the edge, and PC will continue to be the way that we get the work done, right? So the PC today is very much alive. So some of the studies that we've done, right, has led us to these numbers, which are really interesting. So I'm just going to dive through some of them, right? But what we're looking at, so it used to be that we all went to work 9 to 5, right? And work was a place that we went to. And now it's really more an activity that takes place whenever and wherever, right? 60% of us do some work after hours. 60% of us do some work from home, right? A lot of us can probably recognize this scenario. And furthermore, it used to be that technology was just a standard, right? You go to work, users were given a device that IT gave them. Today, users really do have an expectation of the device that they're giving. Personal technology, right, is really driving this expectation. They experience the benefit of the latest technology in their home. So really consumerization is really driving this, right? And so they want easy-to-use devices and apps that really fit their needs. And these last couple of numbers are really what's the most surprising to me, right? You look at millennials entering the workforce, right? 42% of millennials would quit a job with poor technology. 82% say technology influenced the job that they take, right? And that will continue to change as we have more of a youth workforce entering the market, right? And so new technologies like AR, VR, smart office, and things like that will continue to grow, and so will the demands of the users. I talk to a lot of companies who are still trying to kind of figure out how do we implement these new technologies like VR into our product group or service that we're offering, and what's that going to look like. And it's really becoming an innovative conversation. So, but in terms of digital transformation, which really for us falls under workforce transformation, there's really 4 areas that you see here below, right? Where a modern workforce being everything we just discussed, right? Growing number of millennials that are more demanding towards their IT expectations in terms of quality and experience entering to market, consumerization, more collaborative needs, right, and the experience for collaboration, as well as flexible work styles working from anywhere, and really driven by convenience. And then you have the apps portion, which is really just more of a broader mix of apps, right, whether it be legacy or native apps, web apps, subscription apps, or mobile, right? And then all that data and those apps live in the cloud outside what we would consider traditional corporate perimeter. And so, again, more flexible work styles, work from anywhere, convenience-driven is leading this. And then you have the mobile workforce, which is really the same task performed on any device, right? So Windows 10 is a very large portion of it, being able to use all the apps across platforms, right? And then it's really tied to business outcomes like in retail or in healthcare, where there are specific application that needs to be working on mobile devices and flow through their environment to support the entire business. And then, of course, there is the delivery of managing the device. Again, device management is really changing with Windows 10 and how this is all taking place. And it's really shifting to cloud first. We're starting to hear about things like autopilot coming out from Microsoft. So there's a lot of exciting things happening that are really supporting the trends that we're currently seeing in the market. But despite all of these user demands and expectation, right, especially with millennials increasingly entering the workforce, some IT organizations are still trying to hold on to their devices and their assets as long as they possibly can, right? And so we know that at 3 years, support costs or TCO increases significantly. And I think there's something, I think this slide says 500 million, but I think we're probably, it's a lot lower today, right? But there is a lot of devices out there that are over 4 years old in the work environment, right? So even though this is a huge productivity loss for the end user, it's also a strain on productivity for IT, right? So it's not just about the end user, it's also about whoever's managing these devices are responsible for downtime. And of course, security is a really big concern as well. And so we know that about half of IT decision makers out there say that repair costs and maintenance of older devices are actually higher costs than just purchasing a new PC, right? So older systems cost more to maintain, they're harder to secure, they decrease productivity, et cetera, right? So there's a lot of data out there supporting an understanding for just driving PC refresh, right? One of them also being Windows 10. And then when you dive into like the actual IT departments, this is really interesting, right? So you're looking at balancing the cost with an organization's productivity. Again, which productivity is both for the end user and for IT. And so IT has traditionally been measured on cost, right? You have a budget. This is the money that you have to drive mobility. You stick within your budget, right? And so But now we're also starting to see new metrics pop up in terms of measurements, and they're being measured on user experience, right, which is driven by those desires by the end users. And really it's around not only productivity, but also their actual general happiness with their devices. And so as user demands continue, which is will, right, and IT allows for more diversity and more devices in the environment, security threats, manageability, and cost pressures will continue to grow and become really, really key. So the way we really looked at it at Dell, looking more closely at how our products are designed to really meet the need of our end users, we have created what we like to refer to as our workforce personas. And as you can see on these slides, there's kind of 4 different personas, and then there's 3 that are more linked to specialty work, right? So there's the desk-centric employee, right? They spend most of their time at their desk or on company premise. They're call center workers, right? Medical researchers, things like that. What these pictures are probably not doing the greatest or the best at is showing how we really incorporate the entire portfolio into these workers, right? So for a desk-centric worker, as you can see here, this guy is sitting at his desk. It's a clean work environment. We know that the workplace or the desks that people work at today are getting smaller, right? So it's really about how do you keep a clean work environment? How do you mount your optiplexes or your desktops behind the screen? Do you provide multi-screens, right, dual screens for your workers for higher productivity? You tie in cable covers for security. You need headsets, you need keyboards, you need mice. The whole thing, right, is really essential for keeping productivity up, right? So that's just one example with the desk-centric workers. You also have the remote workers who spend most of their time off-premise, right, but in one place. Then you have the corridor warriors, who are people that go from meeting to meeting. They're going to need mobile devices, but also going to need a dock to when they get back to their desk to quickly dock back in and get back to work. You have the on-the-go professionals who need different requirements of their devices, right? The really key is, and what we're seeing is, companies used to have maybe 1 or 2, maybe 3 different standards within their environment, and now we're seeing companies have more like 6 different personas or different devices depending on the work that you do within your organization. So the complexity of devices is really changing, and that's why we have these personas to help our customers really identify what it is that people need or do, and set some standards around what devices do they need. And so when you tie all this together, there's really 3 things that we focus on when we go to market with client at Dell, and it's really the 3 top concerns that we know from an IT manager perspective that you have, right? So it's security, manageability, and reliability, all of which are really important, right? Security probably being the key one, and we can certainly get you way more information on how we go to market on our encryption packages, right? What kind of software or hardware security we're providing in terms of authentication, TPM chips, right? And so these are all questions that you probably are asking. And for the purpose of this call, I'm not going to dive into it a ton, but I do want you guys to know that we're offering, whether it's preventing threats or securing the data, we really do have a total security solution on the box. So I will make sure I'll share my email at the end of this if you have questions, and I'll be happy to share some of those things, because it really truly is a giant topic on its own, and probably require a whole WebEx on its own as well. Then when you turn into reliability, right? So obviously this is a big pain point for organization, and what it really ties down to is how do you maximize productivity by reducing the downtime that you have, right? And so from our devices, we're actually looking at about 97% of our commercial client system that have a 0 dispatch in the first year, right? So we spend a lot of time focusing on quality. And so in fact, we're one of the only OEMs that actually have a rugged portfolio, or at least one of the top 3 OEMs that have a rugged portfolio, which means we have a specialized lab where we support or where we test those devices that we sell into government and military, right? That has to have military standard A10G testing. We test all of our standard corporate devices, not because we have to, but because this way we're able to look at all the components that we use to make sure our reliability is in top, right? So if you ever requested, let's say you're buying a Latitude 7490 and you wanted to see how that device held up in that reliability testing, we certainly have those test reports available for you to check out so you can see what happened when we dropped it from 5 feet, 10 feet, et cetera, right? What happens when you pour water over it, things like that. Those are just a few examples of some of the things that we're testing. And so, excuse me. And so if something did happen, right, or did go wrong, we also have our proactive and predictive support in terms of Pro Support and Pro Support Plus that I'm going to have Randy talk a little bit more about in detail here in a little bit. So I won't steal his thunder, but definitely always recommend looking at our warranty options, making sure that you have the support that you need so when things happen, you can minimize that downtime and make sure that you get your users back to work in minimum time. All right. And then lastly is really around management, right? So I don't know if you haven't heard about the Dell Client Command Suite. It's basically a software that comes free with all of our commercial systems, right? So it provides features around automating, streamlining deployment, configuration, monitoring, and updates, things like that, right? And so you can manage all of your Dell systems simultaneously across the globe, right? So it just provides that flexibility in terms of configuring the BIOS, system settings, right? And so this is regardless. It doesn't replace whatever IT method that you're using, such as if you're using SCCM or Case or Landesk, right? This is a plugin that allows you fewer steps. And what it's really just all about is fewer touches, manual labor, right? That will save you money. I think what the stats that we're seeing is when you look at the total cost of ownership on a device, only really 20% of that cost is the procurement of the actual device. The remaining 80% of the cost really comes from updating your device, right? Supporting it, pushing out, and just deploying it in general, right? So there's a lot of opportunity to save money on your management. So if you're someone out there who either sits in an IT department and you touch multiple systems every time you guys are deploying, please reach out so we can get you some more information on the Dell Client Command Suite. It is a free offering for you that will greatly benefit in cutting down that, manually error-prone tasks that you normally see. As I'm finishing up, I just wanted to show this one because it is a great slide that just kind of show our entire portfolio, right? So we offer anything from thin clients with no OS, right, all the way to very high-end compute, graphic card heavy towers, right, in the workstation side. We have rugged devices. We have mobile devices. It basically goes end-to-end, right, including all of our peripherals that Joe will cover here in a little bit. So if you're not fully familiar with our portfolio, is there any product in specific that you want to hear more about? Again, I will share my email. Feel free to reach out, and I'll be happy to take us through not only the product information, but also our roadmap, what's to come, right? What's the gen over gen technology that we're seeing? What's the updates we're getting from Intel and from Microsoft that you guys can benefit from in our Dell devices? And lastly, Windows 10, or more specifically, Windows 10 migration, right? So if you're not aware, if you have users out there who are still on Windows 7, support for Windows 7 is going end of life in January 2020. That means no more updates in a year and a half for this OS, right? Regardless, we still have lots of customers out there who are using Windows 7 either because of some legacy application, et cetera, that they have that are not currently developed for Windows 10, right? So even whether it's your entire environment or small group of users, please know that support is coming up in a year and a half, so that's important to know. It's also important to know that as of October 31st this year, any OEM, right, so this is not just a Dell requirement, but it'll be HP, Lenovo, all of us, are no longer able to ship devices with Windows 7 at factory, right? So what we've been doing for the last couple of years is selling the downgrade licenses so that you are able to downgrade, we'll downgrade the device for you so it ships out with Windows 7. As of October 1st, the only way for you to receive a Windows 7 device is if you're a volume license customer with Microsoft, right? This way you can get your Windows 10 license and you can downgrade using your own media, right? So if you have questions about Windows 7, if you currently have users that are Windows 7, it is important that you start reaching out with your PCM representative to find out how we can support you at Dell so that this is not something that will surprise you once we get into October. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Randy, who's going to talk about support and deployment services.
Great. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Randy Sauce. I'm with Dell, supporting PCM as well. So Dell is the one-stop shop, right? And we're here to assist you with your IT life cycle. What you see on the screen right now is what we call the IT life cycle. So we can begin from the start of your IT, from the planning and design, from where you want to be now in your company and in the future. We can deploy, train the individuals. It is said that 83% of companies use their IT staff 83% of the time just deploying the units into their environment. So Dell can actually do that a lot quicker through our deployment services. Then we come to the manager and support. So how are we gonna take care of those machines? I'll discuss that later in the other slides. But we do that through ProSupport and ProSupport Plus. And then we can do the transformation and the retirement of those systems. We have the asset resell and recycle platform that we can also use. So next slide, please. Great. So here's our support for a client. I didn't touch bases on the basics because the basic warranty that a lot of customers do use, it's basically for your big corporations that have 100, 200, even 500 IT people to support their business, whether it's break, fix, deployments, and so forth. And as you can see there, that it's Monday through Friday, and it's not even U.S. based, right? So a lot of variables happen when an issue happens with the systems. We always recommend either the ProSupport or the ProSupport Plus to get your systems up and running fast, right? So your end users can be productive all the time, whenever available. But one of the things that I want to call out for that ProSupport is that you have the in-region ProSupport engineers, you have the software support and collaborative third-party assistance for any issues that you might have. But then you have that auto issue detection, notification, and case creation by support assist. Basically what that is that when something happens, a code is sent to our command center, and then we will notify you, what do you want to do? It's your choice. We also have the ProSupport Plus on that predictive issue detection for failure prevention by support assist again. Something like this, it's if your hard drive is about to go out or your battery is about to lose power for some reason, it sends a code out to our command center, and we'll call you actually before the incident takes place, and say, here are the issues, what do you want to do? So you don't have that stoppage of workforce. We also have on that Pro Support Plus a very technical account manager that will manage your IT systems. Your warranties are coming up, your PCs are coming up, end of life. He can coordinate all that with the individuals or the company and say, okay, this is what we recommend. This is what Dell would recommend. This is the this is the one that is the most attentive, so we can take care of you. You also get a monthly support history. So it tells you if a machine, something did happen to the machine, we can tell you what we did to fix it, and you get that monthly as well. So if you can go to that next slide, please. So then we go to that ProDeploy for client. So what we mean by ProDeploy is how do we get it from our factory to your desk? The basic deployment right now, of course, we'll sit there and, like Cameron was saying, that we'll do the imaging, we'll do the asset tagging and the asset reporting. We'll get it on there. We'll do the BIOS configurations, standard asset reports, and then we can get it out, and all you have to do is just plug it in. To your ProDeploy, we will actually come on site, we'll hook it up, we will make sure everything works in your environment. Your end user can sit down, log in, and they can run and be productive for you. To the ProDeploy Plus, we also have the project documentation and the knowledge transfer, and basically what that is like you can have your IT staff sitting with us. We can show them how to log it in, how to get your end user into the system, and they can be productive. We also had that security data wipe for ProDeploy Plus. So whenever you want to get a new machine, transfer the data, we can set that, and it can wipe out your entire hard drive. ProDeploy Plus also has 30-day post-deployment support. So in other words, once it's up and running, we just won't leave you there. If anything were to happen within the next 30 days, they will come back out and take care of you. So the training credits for the Dell EMC education services, what that basically is that if one individual is not qualified to work on Dell, we give you training credits to use to train that individual. So he can work on any type of client suites that you might have within your environment. To the asset resale, that is something that we would take back from you. We can also resell it. You also get some funds back on that once we resell that. And basically that's our life cycle at a high level. And if you ever wanted for me to deep dive, you can always send me an email, and I can get you all documentations that we have.
Right. Thank you, Randy. I'm going to turn
Sure.
it over to Joe, who's going to talk a little bit about our monitor portfolio as well as our peripherals. Joe, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Cami. And thank you, everyone, for calling in to learn about the desktop transformation like Cami was talking about, and how to roll out your client like Randy was speaking about. Finally, I'm going to talk about some of the accessories and monitors and peripherals that really finish off that productivity story with what you're trying to achieve. Because with all of this transformation in IT, all you're trying to do is get your work done, and that means productivity. So when you're rolling out these brand new client systems, you're spending a lot of other money and buying a lot of other products around that client system in order to make sure you're getting the productivity, making sure your workers have what they need. And in fact, it goes quite a ways in terms of the expense of that client system. If you take a look at notebooks, typically another 55% of what you paid for that client system is spent on all of the displays and peripherals that go with that. And on a desktop system, it's even more profound at 100%, double in terms of the additional items you're going to have. But what you're getting for that is the complete package and the productivity behind it. So let's take a look at what's going on in the display and the peripheral space. When you're considering these additional items to your client system, one of the big questions you may ask is, well, why am I going to go with Dell monitors and accessories for my Dell system? We've designed all of these products to work very well together, and again, the key operative word there is productivity. So as you connect these from a technical perspective, they are going to enhance the experience and work functionally in the best way possible. We've carefully curated the accessories in terms of which ones are the most important and making sure we're getting the product with the right features and state-of-the-art technology. And finally, thoughtful design. When you're creating a pleasing working environment for your workers, you want to make sure that it looks good together, everything looks like it goes together, it's not a hodgepodge combination of technology, and these things are important. Not that the way it looks is necessarily going to change the functionality of the software or the processor inside, but in terms of what the worker feels like working, how productive they're going to be, how much they want to come to work every day, it goes a very long way and sometimes gets underrated. So let's go on to the next slide, Cami, please. Let's start off with Dell monitors. Dell monitors, I'm sure many of you on the call already are enjoying our products. We've been #1 worldwide in displays for 5 years, and we're #1 in North America. So this is a key position for us. It means that we can influence the industry. We're getting top-of-the-line components, and that we're pushing the envelope in terms of driving productivity into the products and listening always to feedback that we get from you and from workers in general to understand what they need, what they want to see in their displays. And we address those and drive those into the product set and you reward us with the status as being the #1 monitor brand worldwide. So let's go on, Cami. We're going to take a look at the overall portfolio. Many of you are familiar with this, as I said, because I know you're already enjoying our Dell monitors on your desks. If not, we're going to go through the portfolio really quickly. We have our entry-level monitors at the E-Series. This is great for task workers and very well aligned to a WISE thin client environment as an example. They're very functional and they still enjoy the top quality components and design that we have used across our entire portfolio. Our P-Series is the professional series. This is perfect for the knowledge worker. This is the one commonly understood as the corporate standard in general, and where we get our most popular products. And we're going to talk in a minute. We're having a huge refresh right now, so this is perfect timing for getting acquainted with the P-Series monitors if you are not familiar already, because we've got some great new products launching really just even this week. Ultra Sharp is our highest end line of products. This is where we're driving cutting edge technology and cutting edge design into the product space. This is for our most discerning users. We include also features like color calibration in this portfolio and experiment with leading technologies like curved displays, infinity edge, high resolutions, different technologies. All of that is encapsulated in our Ultra Sharp space. You can see to the right there we've got Ultra Sharp with Premier Color, which is that color critical work space. And finally, we do have a conference room line of monitors. These are large monitors that you're hanging on your wall, so very similar technologies, and we're bringing it to you and expanding our portfolio, moving from 55-inch to 86-inch at the moment, and we'll touch on those as well. Go ahead, Kimmy. Next slide. So I did mention that we are refreshing our most popular series and most popular monitors in particular just over the last couple of weeks. This is our professional series, the P monitors. You can see that we are refreshing our 22, 23, 24, and 27-inch class products. One of the key enhancements that you're going to notice right off the bat when you look at the product is now we've moved to a 3-side narrow bezel look. So the display has even gotten much smaller, both from a bezel elimination perspective. Because we were able to eliminate all that weight, we've also made it slimmer. The base has gotten smaller. All of these things really reclaim your desk space and help improve that productivity in that respect. Your work is floating in front of you with a nice edge-to-edge design on the 3 sides. We include the latest features and functions like USB 3 connectors, and we are also having an audio solution that you can connect to this as well. So really perfect for the knowledge base, the corporate standard user. And these are the ones that we're refreshing. We're also enhancing the portfolio. On the next slide, we're going to take some of these new models and add USB Type-C. So from a technology perspective, giving you an overview of what's going on in display technology, USB Type-C connectivity is a key part of connectivity in general and displays most immediately. So most of our notebook systems already have USB Type-C. USB Type-C is also incorporated in our docks, which we're going to talk about in a couple of minutes. And now we are rolling it out into our monitors. It's an extremely powerful connection, and the way that, you know, if you click forward 5 to 10 years, this is probably where we're going to end up from a technology perspective. So I've got those new Type-C monitors launching. Here is a quick recap of moving from our current professional systems to these new models, both the regular refreshed monitors and then our additional USB Type-C versions of them. As I mentioned, we've enhanced the design. We moved the cable management slot a little higher so it hides that complexity a little bit better. The base is smaller, the monitor is thinner, 3 sides, the narrow bezel, so we've eliminated the bezel on those 3 sides there. And then we've added that Type-C connectivity and even daisy chaining capability to our professional series, which is a huge enhancement. Up until this point, you were only able to enjoy daisy chaining in our UltraSharp line of products. So really a number of enhancements across the board. Go ahead, Kimmy. So what does USB-C connectivity on the monitor mean? It means you could have a dock solution when you're looking for high-powered connectivity, you're looking for a landline hardwire RJ45 connection, and you're also looking for management, advanced management capabilities through the network. You're going to want to go with a dock, and we're going to talk about it. It will be a USB-C dock where you're moving. And with USB-C on the monitor, you may choose as an option to connect the monitor directly to the system. The monitor will be able to charge that system, and then the system client is able to send video and audio and data to the monitor. So it creates a very clean solution for the right environment. Go ahead, Kimmy. I did mention here the pros and cons. From a dock perspective, it's all going to be about manageability, the ability to connect that RJ45. You get increased connectivity, also a number of USB ports, additional USB ports and things like that, and additional monitor connectivity. And then finally, higher power in terms of charging. But the USB-C monitor, PC monitor is going to be a great option for certain environments. So let's go on, Kimmy. I did mention that there's going to be an audio solution for this, and what we've done is we've enhanced the product to allow a speaker bar to be clipped at the base of the display. So this is a really great option from our basic sound bar to our advanced sound bar that is also Skype certified for great communication capabilities. This is going to be a new enhancement for these newer products. Go ahead, Kim. I did want to spend a couple moments on our large format displays. We've been in the large format display space now for a couple of years, and our portfolio is growing. We've got 55-inch models, two of them, two 70-inch models, and an 86-inch model. And these are a great way to enhance the productivity of an office space, an educational space, by sharing and creating that collaboration environment. We have touch models, we have full HD, we have 4K models, and all of this, all of these large format displays are using monitor scalers. These are far more advanced than simply hanging a consumer grade television on the wall. This is a professional device. You can see with some of our models there at the bottom, we've enhanced it so that you can actually add a desktop client and plug it right into the back of the large display. This is on one of our 4K 55-inch and our 4K 86-inch, making it an extremely powerful solution, and you're able to take advantage of solutions like Intel Unite and make the monitor that usually is just sitting on a wall and then needs to be connected to some sort of client system when you walk up to a conference room and you want to connect a client. But you add a client to the monitor itself, and now it is an interactive connection to your IT infrastructure. You can walk up to the device, you can access the internet, you can access resources that are on the network immediately without having to depend on client devices or connectivity in the room. So that adds a really great element in terms of productivity of the device, and it actually comes alive as a real usable asset for your workers. So that's on the large format displays. I'm going to jump over to client peripherals real fast. So within our peripheral portfolio, the displays being one of the largest components of enhancing a notebook or a desktop client environment, you're going to add additional items to increase that productivity. The first place you're going to go from a peripheral perspective is a dock. And we talked about the place a dock plays in the environment. It's going to be an enabler. It allows a lot more connectivity to multiple monitors, multiple devices. It gets into the network, the high-speed network. For all those reasons, you're going to be looking to a dock for your notebook solution. And USB-C and Thunderbolt is going to be the technology area to go in. Our most popular docks right now are the USB-C and Thunderbolt, and that's where folks are going. It's the most powerful one. Our notebooks are enabled to take advantages of them, and I'm sure you're already experimenting and looking at those. From a keyboard and mouse perspective, I mentioned how everything looks good together when we design this solution, and the keyboards and mice are no different. This is one of the areas, I mean, quite literally, your workers are touching the keyboard a lot every day, we hope, right? They're doing their work, and so it's an important part of the work productivity experience. And whether those keyboards and mice need to be enhanced from a wireless perspective or other sorts of key functionality in terms of audio or communications or a number pad or whatever's going to make the job easier for them, you want to make sure you accommodate them. So that's a key part, I think, key peripheral for productivity. A number of the peripheral devices actually cater to, as Cami was pointing out, the changing workforce. You have a lot of folks working from home, they're mobile, they're working in multiple areas, and so travel becomes a huge part of the computing experience. For that reason, we have power packs that enable you to power not only, I'm sure many of you are familiar with the power packs that charge your phone or maybe charge another small device that you have, but our power packs are enough to charge your entire notebook. And of course, they are comply to a standard, so you can charge all of your electronic devices for your road warriors. So it's a key peripheral, and I'm sure many of you are carrying those around already. Moving along the same lines, carrying cases, they can be certainly undervalued, but are extremely important. These are, you have your road warriors carrying now these expensive notebooks. You want to make sure that they're protected properly and that they fit properly, and that's what our carrying cases do. From an audio perspective, this could be on the road. This could also be at the desk. Again, designed to work with our systems, to look good, and give a complete experience. As you move on, charging carts is a little bit more of a custom solution for in the education space. Our charging carts have many advantages, and they're custom made to work very well with our notebooks in particular. We have a number of mounts and stands for many of you who are using multiple monitors. Perhaps you have dual monitor or a quad monitor setup. This is where you're going to find our custom designed Dell mounts and stands. If you're working in a legacy environment and you've got products, IT in a number of generations, you're going to want to take advantage of the adapters and cables that we're offering. And as you move by these new devices, especially some of the larger monitors that we're offering, you're going to see that you're going to want to lock these down. You may want privacy, and many of these devices and the monitors are going to be different across the entire organization. So maybe you have privacy filters for your legal department or your HR department. And then you want to lock down those executive systems. And then if there's data involved, you want to physically lock those down as well. I think one of the things, from a security perspective, Cami was mentioning some of the threats out there from a software perspective, but many of the security threats are actually physical. I think a statistic that we were throwing around was something like 64% of notebook theft actually happens at the workplace. So a lot of folks have this idea that, oh, your notebook, a work notebook gets stolen from your house, somebody broke in, or you left it on your car seat and somebody broke into the car and stole it from there, or, it gets stolen in on the subway or something like that. But actually 64% is happening at the workplace, so here's a great way to lock that down as well. And then finally, there are some accessory kits so that you can even think less about this stuff. We've compiled accessory kits that have a key combination of these peripherals to maximize productivity. Go ahead, Cami. Let's take a look at the docks. I mentioned USB-C and Thunderbolt are going to be a key part of your future, and they have a lot of technology offering in terms of being more potent with the power they're delivering to the system. Today's systems require more power, and this technology is rising to the occasion. It's 100% compatible with not only our Dell systems, but they are conforming to a standard, so you can use them with a number of different devices. And then finally, the manageability is one of those key aspects on how you're going to be using the dock, because as IT is managing the system, you want to be able to access it, whether you want to take advantage of Pixie Boot, Wake on LAN, or other sorts of updates through the dock. That's going to be an important part of your solution. Go ahead, Cami. We talked about different areas. I mean, the USB-C docks are going to take the place of exactly where you're going to be using docks today already. The single cable connectivity is going to be a huge relief to your workers. We were using that single click-in, which is a great docking solution, but now as we move to cable, we had to get rid of that single click-in dock because the connector was too large, and we had to make the notebooks even slimmer and lighter. As a result, the single cable is a natural progression in terms of making it as easy as possible to dock your system. I did talk about the power already, and then that that convenience of being able to plug in the USB-C. It's a bidirectional plug if you haven't experienced it yet, which makes it really a lot easier to use than the current USB ports. Go ahead, Cami, you can change it. These are our docking solutions. The WD-15 is going to be your corporate standard. That's the one to go to with USB-C connections. Thunderbolt is in the middle. This one is offering even more connections and more power, but keep in mind you're going to want to use a Thunderbolt system to connect to it and take full advantage of it. And then finally, the universal dock offers USB-C and USB 3. This is a great way to bring in this new dock technology, but you may have a mixed environment. So if you've got clients that are not on USB-C yet, what's great about this dock is that you can also plug in with USB Type 3 and still get that docking technology and make that consistent move to a single dock across your environment and still be able to accommodate legacy systems until your upgrade to USB-C is complete. So Cami, you can go ahead. I think this may be the last slide. And that's everything I wanted to cover with you today on monitors and peripherals. And I think we're going to open it up to questions now.
Thank you, Joseph. We do have some time remaining for questions. If you have any questions you have not yet shared, please go ahead and enter them in the control panel now. So I did receive one earlier. Are all monitors VESA compliant?
That's a great question. Our commercial monitors are VESA compliant. So on our commercial line of monitors, there's a number of standards or brand tenets that we conform to. They all have VESA connectivity. They all have a matte anti-glare screen. So those are a couple of the aspects. And in contrast, on our consumer line of monitors, you're going to see that not all of them, some of them have VESA compatibility, but not all of them. And then they also have more of a glossy screen because that's for home use where you can control the lighting environment. And hopefully you're staring at the screen less than 8 hours a day. But those are some of the reasons that our commercial line, we're very thoughtful and we power pack those features in there, and we know VESA is a requirement on the commercial side.
All right, thank you, Joseph. And how is Dell supporting the Windows 10 transition?
So as we mentioned, really in terms of the hardware, what we got to do, so the last processor really to support Windows 7 is Skylake, which is a 6th gen processor, right? Currently our current devices are shipping with Cape Lake R, which is 8th gen. So we're keeping devices from a previous generation alive with a limited amount of configuration so that we have some CPUs, some 6th gen CPUs that we can add to those for those customers out there that are volume licensed customers. Like I mentioned earlier, you have to be a volume licensed customer to be able to take advantage of this past October 31st, right? But we do have hardware out there to support it. So if you're looking to procure hardware to support this, make sure that you're double checking the configuration and getting the right Skylake processors. Good question.
All right, thank you, Cami. And got another one for you guys. Does Dell offer devices that are built specifically rugged for outdoor use?
We do. I talked a little bit about it earlier. For those field users, we do have a rugged portfolio. We're the only top three vendor that has rugged, right? So you may be familiar with Panasonic Toughbooks out there. We have a portfolio that goes across tablet as well as clamshell. We have fully rugged and semi-rugged, meaning fully rugged, meaning that they're tested against the full gamma of the 810G specifications that are out there, third-party certification that you have to test against. And then we have semi-rugged that may be for those environments where you're not really worried about the certification per se, but you still need a device that's additionally rugged, right, or protected against dust and ingress protection, stuff like that, or needs to have special panels to be read in sunlight. It may be used for areas where you're in manufacturing. you have open roof or you're on concrete flooring where you need a device that, if dropped, won't break, right? So yes, we absolutely do have a full portfolio to fit any need in this space.
All right, Cami, thank you very much. And it appears that is all the questions. Would you guys like to have any summarization or final thoughts?
I'm good. Is there a way we can, George, share our email addresses with the attendees in case there's any follow-up questions?
Could you, I think you could enter it in the chat and send it to everyone and they could probably get it.
Well, thank you for your time today. Really appreciate this opportunity to talk about our Dell products.
All right. Let's see here. Just sent it to the entire audience.
Thank you, George.
You're welcome. So with that, many thanks to our speakers, Cami, Joseph, and Randy, and thank you all for joining us today. Be sure to check out www.pcm.com/webinars for our on-demand recordings and for our upcoming webinar schedule. Thanks again for joining us, and we hope to see you again for future webinars. Have a great day.